But infections, as we've discovered in Singapore and in most of the other countries around the world, the infections are not necessarily the metric that are important at this stage in time. And in China too, yes, of course, there's going to be a surge in infections because they've opened up the doors. The question is, what impact is it going to have? Are you seeing any evidence right now that it's overwhelming the businesses? Are you seeing any evidence that it's overwhelming the health system or causing any serious problems?
So, it's been an interesting year for businesses in China. They've learned to kind of operate in the on-off economy that has been the reality with the zero COVID policy, with flash lockdowns and all the other restrictions. And so this just feels, in some sense, like the final reprieve. We're finally getting a move away from this very challenging policy for business. And yet it's going to be a bumpy road ahead before things normalize and stabilize, because now with infections, you also have disruptions to operations, to supply chains, particularly to retail and consumer sectors. The zero COVID policy really stomped on consumer and investor confidence this year. We've seen that, and the data bears that out. But we're not expecting an immediate recovery, particularly because China is a Covid-naïve population. And with infections surging, you see empty streets in many cities because people are either at home with the virus or afraid of contracting it. And so we don't expect that we'll see a pickup in consumption, for example, until the second half of next year. That's also consistent with what you've seen in other economies that transition from zero COVID to living with the virus. It does take some time for people to adjust to this new reality.
Well, certainly the markets are a bit more optimistic on this, aren't they? I mean, we've seen quite a reaction in response to the change in COVID policy. And if activity does pick up from the very low base levels we're going to pick up, it's going to be fairly positive, isn't it?
Yes. Although it will be really a year of change and challenge for China in 2023, and I think there'll be a bumpy road ahead to normalization with the surging infections and particularly pressures on the healthcare system. The easing of zero COVID restrictions has stoked so much optimism. But, candidly, we saw markets move on the basis of rumors about zero COVID just a few months ago. So I think the world, and particularly the consumer, investor, and business communities, have been waiting with bated breath for this shift. We at the EIU have upgraded our forecast for GDP growth for China for next year on the back of these changes. So I do think overall, as China's macroeconomic fundamentals stabilize next year, this will be good news for China's economy and, of course, for the region and the world, given the outsized role that China plays therein.